better understand what maybe other people go through, but also, to be the best teammate I can be. And, I think coming back.
So, this is how it begins. Not with a jersey retirement, not with a standing ovation, not even with an Instagram post. Just silence. Heavy, pointed, and calculated silence. Caitlin Clark, the most electrifying force to hit the WNBA since its inception, didn't need to say a word. Her absence said it all. There were no updates from the Indiana Fever, no clarifying tweets from trainers, no reassurance from coaches. Instead, there was a void where Caitlin Clark used to be, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and professionally. It didn't happen overnight. This unraveling began slowly, with each awkward press conference, each questionable substitution, each strain and sprain left poorly treated or prematurely overlooked. But it reached its boiling point when Clark made one radical decision. She walked away from the Fever's medical staff. No more consultations, no more check-ins, no more pretending. The pain wasn't there. That wasn't precaution. It was protest. The message couldn't have been clearer. I no longer trust the people paid to protect me. In that single act, Clark flipped the script. She wasn't just rejecting a treatment plan. She was rejecting a system that prioritized box office numbers over long-term health, a system that kept replaying the same cycle, rush re-injure, a system that saw her not as a generational talent, but as a ratings machine on two increasingly fragile legs. And just like that, the relationship fractured. Behind closed doors, sources confirmed what many fans feared. Clark wasn't even informing team doctors about her outside evaluations. She didn't seek a second opinion out of curiosity. She sought one because she believed she couldn't afford to listen to Indiana anymore. This wasn't about a pulled quad. This was about survival. And for Coach Stephanie White to admit that she hadn't even spoken to the team's own medical staff about Clark's consultations, that wasn't a slip. That was a full-scale leadership collapse. The kind that screams dysfunction from every level of the organization. But the truth that rattled fans the most was simple. This was never about the injury. This was about trust. Caitlin Clark, who played every college game like it was her last, had been reduced to limping through her rookie season with groin strains, quad pulls, and more soft tissue damage than any player should endure in her first year. For muscle-related injuries in under 4 months. That's not coincidence. That's malpractice dressed up in post-game excuses. That's a franchise risking its golden goose for a short-term box score. May 3rd, May 26th, mid-June, July 15th. The dates all tell the same story. Clark was rushed back to the court again and again, even when commentators mentioned she hadn't participated in full-speed practice before returning. She was cleared to play. That decision wasn't just reckless, it was catastrophic. She re-injured herself almost immediately. That's when the calculus changed. Caitlin Clark had seen enough. From the outside, it looked like she was benched. But from the inside, she took herself off the board. This wasn't Indiana sitting her. This was Clark saying, "I'm not playing your game anymore." She wasn't walking away from the team. She was walking away from the philosophy. A philosophy that said performance mattered more than longevity. A philosophy that treated a once-in-a-lifetime player like a product. And she wasn't alone in feeling that way. Whispers of concern came from within the league. Elite doctors in New York reportedly gave her advice Indiana refused to accept. There was a pattern. Every injury was preventable. Every injury was mishandled. And every time she came back too early, the team acted like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Then came the photographs. July 22nd, after a painful loss to the New York Liberty, Clark wasn't seen sulking in the locker room. She was spotted elsewhere in the tunnels of the Barclays Center in what looked like a business meeting. No smiles, no casual hugs, just focused, serious body language. Sitting with her agent, talking to Liberty head coach Sandy Bryant, and yes, joined by Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a signal. The images leaked online. The internet lit up. Clark wasn't just exploring options. She was sending a message while Indiana was floundering. Trying to control a narrative slipping through its fingers, the Liberty looked organized, united, interested. They didn't just see a superstar, they saw a franchise centerpiece who deserved to be treated like one. And Caitlin Clark, for the first time, looked like she was actually being listened to. But Indiana, they doubled down on silence. Vague injury timelines, dodgy coach statements. Not once did they say what mattered. We're doing everything to support Caitlin, because they weren't. They were doing everything to keep the noise down. But the silence, it only made things louder. Meanwhile, Clark was building something, a medical network that had nothing to do with Indiana. Specialists, strength coaches, nutritionists, people who answered not to the franchise, but to her. In that choice, she shifted the balance of power across the entire WNBA. She wasn't just a player anymore. She was a movement, one who knew her body, her brand, and her boundaries. And now, she's enforcing them. Indiana had a choice. They were gifted a phenomenon, a generational leader who brought sellouts, national coverage, and new fans to the league. And instead of nurturing her, they gave her coaching chaos, a shaky medical team, and a system that asked her to conform rather than flourish. Christy Sides understood the power of Clark. She handed her the keys, and Clark responded with magic. Rookie of the Year level stats. Comeback wins. A season that revived an entire franchise. But Stephanie White, she came in with a vision that seemed to shrink Clark, not elevate her. No flow, no freedom, no finesse, just control. That's not coaching, that's suppression. And then there's the scoreboard. Without Clark, Indiana's win-loss record doesn't just wobble, it collapses. They've gone from potential contenders to a team barely scraping relevance, yet they behave like they can win without her. That confidence isn't inspiring, it's delusional, because the truth is, Clark doesn't need the fever. But the fever, they need her for everything. Ticket sales, fan engagement, national credibility, and right now they're losing her. Not because of one injury, or one bad game, or even one bad coach, but because they failed to listen when it mattered most. Clark is 23 years old, but in her interviews, she talks like a 33-year-old vet. At All-Star Weekend, she confessed, "This is the first time I haven't felt like a young body that can sprint around every day. That's not just wear and tear, that's weariness, the kind that doesn't just come from playing through pain, but from playing through betrayal, and betrayal leaves scars that tape can't fix." What makes this all so tragic is how avoidable it was. Indiana didn't need to be perfect. They just needed to care, to show Clark that she was more than a marketing tool, that her future mattered more than a Tuesday night win, that her health wasn't just her problem, but theirs too. Instead, they tried to wear her down. And now, they're watching her walk away, not sprinting, not limping, just walking, calm, resolute, focused. The revolution doesn't come with explosions. It comes with choices, silent, steady, irreversible choices. Clark is no longer fighting for Indiana. She's fighting for her career. And other franchises, Las Vegas, New York, even Phoenix, are waiting with open arms. Armed with budgets, medical experts, and the one thing Indiana never gave her: respect. So now we reach the final chapter. The Fever are staring at a future where Caitlin Clark doesn't wear their jersey, where the face of the league suits up in another city, playing with joy again, unburdened by franchise politics and coaching missteps. And they'll realize they had everything and lost it. Because they refused to listen, because they believed she wouldn't walk, because they thought silence meant submission, but it didn't. It meant transformation. Caitlin Clark is no longer Indiana's rookie. She's the league's icon, and the script's no longer theirs to write. She's holding the pen now, and if Indiana wants back in, they better bring more than apologies. They better bring change. Swift, decisive, sincere change. Because if they don't, they won't just lose their star, they'll lose their identity, and that silence they're banking on. It'll echo in their empty seats, their uninspired rosters, and their fading memories. This isn't just a story about injury. This is a story about neglect, about misplaced priorities, about what happens when you forget that the brightest lights burn out fastest when no one protects them. Caitlin Clark doesn't owe Indiana a comeback. She owes herself a future. And if that future doesn't include the Fever, no one should blame her. They should blame the silence.